Okay, so this is for how to measure the B field along the axis of a coil or along the axis of a solenoid. So you can see kind of the rough setup I have here. You figure out some way to mount this magnetic field sensor, and then notice there's different options here. I think for the most part you want to be on the 10 times section, which is in the middle here, and then probably on radial mode, because that's going to measure B fields that are coming into here. There's also tangent mode, which is measuring B fields this way, but we're probably going to want to measure B fields coming into here, because the B field created by a coil is usually either into or out of the center of the coil. Now you can see that I've got this thing set up. Right now I'm just having it at 1 amp, but you could turn it up to 2. It says the limit right here is 2 amps. Now over time this thing's going to get hot, so if you are using it at 2 amps, maybe first try it out at 1 amp and get your act together. Then you can turn the crank up to 2 so that you know what you're doing. Let's take a look at the screen at what I'm doing over here. So right now I've got a magnetic field sensor, so that's in channel 1, and I've got it set up for reading the 10 times strength. Whatever strength you need, you want to make sure that you can see the signal but that it doesn't saturate. If I use 1 times, I'll run into trouble. I'll show you that in just a minute. Now up here I've got it on graph, but what we could also do is drag this down to digits. Let me do that real quick. Alright, so all I did is I dragged this down to the digits, and now I'm displaying it here as well. And so now as I move this thing around, I can move it closer. Notice we get different readings for the field. Notice the graph has changed. So it's probably easiest to use the digits. But what's going to happen if you have it on the wrong setting? Let's say I set it on 100 times sensitivity. Okay, that's amplifying the signal by 100 times. So now when I come over here, it looks like it's a much bigger field, even though that's not correct. So whatever you do, make sure you have this setting match this setting right here. Okay, so there's that. And then notice a problem that you run into. I'm going to show you the screen. I'm going to be moving this magnet around, and you see it's pegged, so it's not actually reading values. So what was happening was, when the sensor right here was too close to the loop, I was hitting the limit on the 100 times setting. So 100 times setting was too sensitive. Anyways, something you got to do is figure out how to make this thing move very precisely in 1 centimeter increments, so you can get the B field every 1 centimeter for like 10 centimeters this way and 10 centimeters that way, and 1 at the center of the coil. Alright? Another thing that you could do, just a second, I'm going to put the camera down. Classy video here. Keep sanding, Angus. Keep sanding. Alright. Whoa. So now all I did was I just took this coil off of here and I printed out some graph paper. I just Googled online for print free graph paper and found some site that I could print graph paper. I forget which one I used here. But you could set this up so you have a grid. Now in this case you could also measure the field. Whoops, let me get my little sensor out here. Right? Now I could also come in and measure the B field at each spot like this. Oops, sorry, you can't see that. Let me do this. So what I could do is I could measure the B field at each spot and get a plot of XY. So if you remember earlier in the semester we made an XY contour plot when we did the equipotential field mapping lab. You could do the same thing here where you plot the magnetic field for each position in the XY grid, and it's only going to take you about 10 minutes to get that done. Shove it into MATLAB, make a nice contour plot, and then we'll see the B field not only as we go in and out of the page, but also in the plane of the loop. Now if you're really hardcore, you could use different planes of the loop and make a 3D model, and that would be pretty complicated. I don't expect that. That'd be pretty crazy. Okay.